Who is that boring person, they think. I've never before met anyone so boring.
Gallon of skim milk.
No.
Dozen eggs. When I received the script and heard that I had an audition for Happiness, I started reading and I was shocked.
I'm looking for the address of a resident. The name is Farber. 11 Angel Court. Thank you.
It was obviously the best script I'd ever read, and it was the most interesting, dark, fascinating role. I was immediately drawn to it. Later, when I asked Todd, how in the world did I get this part? He said, well, everybody on the A list and probably the B list said, no, I wouldn't go near this part. And it came down to the F list or G list, wherever I was, and he asked me to do it.
Hey, Billy. What's going on?
Nothing.
People said to me, hey, were you worried about the role? Did you think twice about it? And there was just no question for me, because it's why I got into acting. I was fascinated and always drawn towards very complicated individuals.
She'll always be alone.
We're all alone.
Oh, Bill. Sometimes I wonder if any of your patients can talk to you.
Sometimes I wonder if they'll ever stop.
I do tend to go towards roles that are very dark, that have a dark, dark core. I'm fascinated with that. I think as an actor, I, for a long time, just thought that this business was about finding someone who was like the role and then imitating that person. And it would be somebody I'd find from life, my family. And then finally, I realized that I was setting up a distance between me and the role. It's like somebody else would do this. But then through training, that finally got through to me. It was that it was me and that it was me living in every single moment that's going on.
Take your time.
Early on, I said, Todd, do you think I should talk to a pedophile?
Do you have any grape high C?
Do we, Trish?
I'm afraid not.
I'll go pick some up.
Bill, don't be silly. He doesn't need anything. It's late.
And he said, absolutely not. If you talk to anyone, they will be in prison or just out of prison in a halfway house or in some way disciplined for what they've done. And Bill has not been disciplined because no one knows about it, and he sees nothing wrong with it. And I loved the thought of pursuing that and looking at that and trying to find that in myself and how it would express itself through me. And if by the end of the day I could have just dipped into that reservoir of real darkness and real evil desire.
What's the matter?
I don't know.
I read a few books about behavioral sort of obsession, and it's where I came up with this idea of this private life, a whole different part of him that he could very comfortably say, this doesn't belong to anyone else but me. Bill considered himself a great dad, a great family man, and he wanted to pursue that, but at the same time, keep this to himself, keep his little private obsession that no one knew about. But as with a lot of obsessed people, his misfortune was that he acted upon it, and it destroys his life, it destroys his family's life. Todd wanted to get the actors to do as much as they could. You could tell. The first day of filming was a scene with one of the little boys in the car. I was driving him home. And it was after the night where I had drugged the little boy. As I did the scene the first time, Todd started talking about the role and the film and how it fit in. And he left me with one line, which is, as this character, as Bill, you have to ride the razor's edge. You can't go too far this way, you can't go too far that way. And I heard that, and we started doing it again, and he was like, yes, that's it, that's it. And I found that balance that he wanted. And whenever Todd spoke to me, it was basically just that line. And when I talked to Philip Seymour Hoffman, he said it was the same thing. He had one line for Philip, which was basically, this character, you don't smile, you don't smile. And if you think about the film, Philip only has one scene when he's at the office and he's just made one of his calls to Lara Flynn Boyle.
Gotta go.
Call me tomorrow.
Bye.
Hey, Alan, did you see the playoffs last night?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
I mean, it's the only time that Philip Seymour Hoffman smiles in the entire film. Yeah, as an amazing part of that amazing performance.
I'll take you boys myself.
The casting of the movie is so fantastic, just from every role. Rufus Reed, who played my son, the ability to just work with a really young person who just had this depth to him. I think he understood it, and he was a totally well-adjusted young man.
Dad,
Yes, Billy.
everyone at school was saying things about you.
Todd always said that he talked to the parents and he said, I just assume that Rufus has read the script. If he has any questions, he can ask you, and if he has any questions, he can ask me. But Rufus pretty much, he kind of figured it out and went along. And each scene we did, as you know, his parents would say, do you have any questions? He'd say, no, I'm good.
Dad, did you, with Johnny Grasso and Ronald Farber?
As an actor, when you play a character who has real dark desires or does evil things, I think you've got to find the positive. You've got to find the life-affirming actions that will fulfill that person. For Bill, that private life, keeping that private, keeping that as mine, as that little part of me that no one can get to, no one can take it away.
The police.
And if those important things you're holding on to are skewed, are leading towards breaking the law, hurting other people, that's where you get really dark people, because they don't think they're being bad. They don't think they're pursuing an evil end.
You said something about Ronald Farber.
Excuse me?
I'm sorry. I mean Johnny Grasso.
And Todd was interested in saying, you know, take a look at yourself. Is there a part of you that finds sympathy in you doing things that aren't good, that aren't right for the world? There's a scene where I'm watching the kids play Little League baseball, and we go to a field because my son's on the team and Johnny Grasso is on the team as well. I remember there was a shot of me coming up to the screen while he's at bat, and it's hopeless. You know he's not going to be able to get on base. And I can remember going up to the fence and just looking at him and my heart just going out for this little boy who couldn't do this, but at the same time also just like a desire deep inside that I end up acting on. And somebody in my building actually painted a picture of that moment from the film and gave me the painting and said, I'd like you to have this. And I can remember when I first saw it, I was just like, oh, that's horrible. It's just, you just see this animal, you know, just the desire that in this person that's looking. And over the years, I've come to really love the painting, and I think it's really beautiful. But it just was that difference between an actor saying, no, what was going on in my mind was, oh, this poor boy, I would do anything to relieve his pain. And of course, in the film, it's a little different. It really is interesting. I mean, you kind of feel like this film, Happiness, could not happen today. But even then, it was a huge kind of bomb that went off when it did come out, because it separated people in terms of people that hated it and people that loved it. We were at the Toronto Film Festival, and I walked into a room to do press, and there was a poster, and it said Happiness, and it had these cartoon faces on it. And I kind of looked at it for a while and then went, that's the name of our movie? Happiness? I could not believe that was the name. It had always been called the Todd Solondz Untitled Project. And I walked into the room and saw that poster, and these characters that was like, what? And then I got to see it, and I can remember the first thing you see is John Lovitz and Jane Addams. It's like, what is this movie?
Until the day you die, you, not me, will always be shit.
And it shocked people, the responses by people to the film. I mean, it was nothing I'd ever seen before. And of course, then you see the whole film and you go, how could it be called anything but happiness?
To happiness. To happiness.
Happiness.
I came.
It was funny, Rufus, when he was going to elementary school, maybe even up to high school, he ended up taking the bus up and down 10th Avenue, and I'd run into him every now and then on the bus. And I'd just say, Rufus, come here. Just the two of us are just going to stand here and just wait a minute. And finally, somebody would just go, what?